Yes, folks, there's another one. Just like the originals, there will probably be like 30 of these. So, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. It is the fourth installment of the new version of Planet of the Apes. This one takes place, it's set a few decades after the last movie, so I'm assuming 30, 40 years, maybe 50. Um, it's very heavily ape centered, not a lot of human interaction, more so towards the end. You will be disappointed. They do not evolve into men wearing masks. It's all motion capture, visual effects. It's a popcorn flick. It's not your summer blockbuster that you'll remember forever. It's something that you might come back to later if you enjoy it. I probably wouldn't buy it. I would if I were to go rewatch them, I would watch it. But I don't know if I would. But for a Friday night, Tuesday, like a date night, it's a good flick. Visually, I would say for a movie that's 80% visual effects, I'd give it a C plus. There's a lot of it's visual effects today versus I don't know 10, 15 years ago. I feel like I've gotten worse, and they're just not as realistic anymore. And I'm not saying these ones were always great. I feel like these four movies have been consistent with their visual effects, but I still feel like they could be better. And you'll see parts where you're like, oh, this looks good, and then you'll see parts where it's real choppy, and you're like, I don't know. But other than that, it's fine. The acting I thought was good for motion capture. They have to make their you have to make animated characters have emotion, and I thought they did well with that. And the dialogue for apes learning English and like getting better at it, but it still has that distinctness to the apes. I thought that was really well done. The way they move, and it's really good. Um, but story wise, it's the hero's journey, and so you'll pick up on that right away, and kind of you'll know where it's going just by if you can figure that out right off the bat. But it was done well. It was done well for a movie that's 80% visual effects. The human aspect, I have some, I have more questions than answers. I feel like it leaves you with, and yeah. So that's what I say. I think go check it out, give it a chance. You'll at least and I think you'll enjoy it, but it won't be that movie you talk about and rave about. Um, Now, I do want to talk about the things I kind of liked and didn't like, but I have to go into spoilers. So, if you want to keep going, great. But if you don't want to be spoiled, don't listen to this. So that's your warning. Okay. So, one of the aspects they did really well with, I thought, was, post apocalyptic world with apes not knowing the past. Because there's factions. Somehow, even when you have, I mean, it's just kind of weird how us as humans think, because I mean we wrote the story, but even when we're writing our stories, we're like, oh, like originally, also this kind of biblical, but like Caesar from the originals is kind of a he's almost like a god figure, or even like an Adam and Eve figure, because he's the first ape to become sentient, and then he goes and creates or helps other apes become sentient by injecting them with this thing, and slowly they grow, and over time, even though they know like it should be this way, they still faction off, and they have their own ideas of how things should work. And it's a very human thing to implement into that. And it's just funny that once you we as humans think that if animals became sentient, they would faction. Like they would fracture into their own groups and start their own things. And I thought this movie, it shows that really well because you have this faction over here that's just kind of more stuck in the old ways. They just do their own thing. And then you have the kingdom, which is, kind of at the end of the movie, more towards the end, but you finally go to the kingdom and it's very Rome like. And there's a purpose it's Rome like because the king that they have, he has a human who can speak, who reads and can read, and he is reading the stories of Rome and how Rome ruled and conquered. And so this guy literally takes the title, this ape king takes the title of Caesar after the original Caesar, but they have distorted Caesar's idea of how apes should live and how apes should live with humans and that apes shouldn't kill apes, but he distorts it into his own thing and he becomes Caesar, but he becomes a Roman Caesar. And it's just kind of cool how they did that. But, just going back to humans, you would think if you knew the past, you wouldn't repeat it, but that's what we do. We repeat the past even though we know it. And so it was just kind of a cool idea of how they did this. And they have slavery. They have slaves of other factions that didn't want to join or didn't probably know about it, and the way they treat everybody it's very human. But that's what we do as humans. Like, we don't want to think that we would be bad, but honestly, we would all probably fall apart if the world went to shit. We would all fall apart and we would resort to horrible, awful things. And this just shows that even in an animal world, they would still do the same thing we did, because once you're sentient, you have this thing called free will and choice, and you can come up with your own ideas. And then if you can read, you can learn fantastic things that may not be the best, but you can try to implement it yourself and do it the right way, but it never works out. So I thought the way they did that was really good. But what I do find interesting, this is just an overall rant of post-apocalyptic worlds for movies. God gets taken out all the time. Like, there's no God anymore. Once the apocalypse happens, there is no God. And I don't believe that would be true. But again, when we write as humans, I don't know why lately, I think 30 years ago, 40 years ago, I don't know. I don't remember the original Planet of the Apes, but I'd have to go and watch them. But I feel like there would be some sort of deity, like that somehow, and maybe they'll get to that point because it's not enough time, but like Caesar, the original ape, I feel like at some point he would become a god or prophet type to the people. And maybe there's just not enough time to go. But so I don't know, that's my only gripe. It's just like, for some reason, once the apocalypse happens, God just disappears in stories. But I don't think that would be true. So that's one little gripe. But the other thing that I have a problem with is the human aspect of this movie. Because you're kind of told that humans became mute and they're dwelling and hiding, and you actually see feral humans. And then you have the one girl who ends up being able to speak, and she functions really well. And I know, as long as there's people, traditions will be passed down. But she's lying throughout the movie, and you don't know what is, like, at the end, you're like, I don't know what is true and what's not. And then she goes to this place, and there's a bunch of humans, and they're still civilized, and they all still speak, and there's, they're not feral. And so, like, that's where I feel like the story is lacking or kind of odd, because the whole movie they've kind of made it seem like there are no humans left. And they did this in the last one. They were kind of showing that the humans are starting to devolve. But then, it's been 40 years and now there's more. Come to find out, there's still a lot of humans that are normal and they're just trying to figure out how to live. And I don't know, the way they did that, I don't think it was great. Um, okay, last thing. There's this scene, there's a vault that they're trying to get into, and it's in the ocean, so they have it blocked off. And once they open the vault, it's a bunker with tanks and ammo and guns and a bunch of things. The monkeys are trying to get into it, and this girl doesn't want the monkeys into it because she doesn't want them to have the weapons, and to possess it. So she blows up the dam that they built, and it floods the entire base. I don't think water works this way, but if you're at sea level and you break the dam, shouldn't the water just stay at sea level even though it goes in? Because it goes in and then they do that thing where they're all trying to get to higher ground. And as they're getting to higher ground, the water is somehow rising and rising. And, it's the ocean. The ocean moves back and forth, and it should just fill. I'm not a scientist and I don't know physics, but shouldn't it just fill and maybe go up a little bit? But it shouldn't like rise drastically, because once you're over sea level, you should be fine. But I don't know. This is my only problem, because I'm not a scientist. I don't know how this works. But the water just kind of keeps growing, and water just comes out of nowhere. And I get it; it's for dramatic effect, but it's like, it doesn't make any sense. At least in my mind, it doesn't make any sense. And I could be wrong. I don't know, but that's my problem. So, but that's all I've got. What did you think of the movie if you went and saw it? Do you see the things that I see that are kind of interesting or not? Leave a comment. Leave a comment if you hated this video. I don't know. But like, subscribe, comment, share. Tell me what I am doing wrong, or what to do better, or if you liked it, let me know. Thank you for watching. I'll keep doing this. It's fun. I enjoy it, so I'll keep doing it. But go see the movie. Let me know what you think. See ya.